You are now in the Black Box. Whoa. With Spider Loke, Most Easty, a.k.a. VJ Keyway, and the Google Gang. Let's go!
Snakewood and that hustle. Big shout out to my nigga SPI, Spider Loke. You know I'm in the Black Box. Had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned. All that.
Jeter, gratitude.
You are now.
Show is a blessing to be back in the Black Box as we blow a succession. The constant, continuous, consistent content creation campaign continues. I am the captain of the voyage, SPI Easty VJ Keyway, a.k.a. in between those two names. He is I is he, and you are here with me on my mama. Yeah, everybody know Big U is in big trouble. Got a lot of personal ties to dude in this situation, so I refrain from speaking on how all this affects him directly. For the most part, it's an open case. He's fighting for his life, and I'm not going to overanalyze and dissect this scenario publicly because, you know, sometimes when you give your thoughts, especially as a creative person, an intelligent person, you may see things no one sees, and I am in no way attempting to aid law enforcement do their job. No one helps me do mine. I'm not attempting to help them do theirs. Free Big U. However, I did see this piece on Law and Crime channel, and there seems to be a reporter and an attorney speaking on the subject. And I was kind of driving and moving around while it was playing. So I didn't get the whole thing, but I watched it from start to finish in pieces. And from what I can tell, it's the most objective, comprehensive, and yes, favorable report in Big U's favor that I've seen on this subject matter. Not saying that anyone participating said, oh man, free Big U, he's innocent, da-da-da-da-da. Nah, that's not the case. But what took place was there was a male attorney appears to be fielding questions from the reporter. And unlike every other report that just says, doom, 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 it's a wrap for Big U, this individual seemed to answer the questions from the perspective of innocent until proven guilty, which is the process, which is called due process in America. And it seems like not only for Big U, but a lot of times when melanated individuals come under the scope of the law, that due process is forfeited them. So I kind of just appreciated these people having this conversation without being the judge and the jury. So with no further ado, let's see what the Law and Crime channel has been up to in regards to Big U. Oh, my mama. And it's a kind of long, about a 30-minute video, so I'm going to try to leave my commentary to a minimal, and let's just soak up what's being said, one with the other, as we blow this session, but I will pause it from time to time when something triggers a thought. All right, here we go.
I just need y'all prayers. I need y'all to... I don't even know what to say.
Remember Big U? He turned himself into federal custody last month after a shocking indictment alleged he committed a number of crimes, from embezzlement to fraud to extortion to robbery, as well as violating the federal RICO Act. But that's not all. His indictment comes as such a shock because to the public, he appeared like an OG who just wanted to do good. But according to the feds, that was all a ploy. I'm Elizabeth Milner with Law and Crime. Now, if Big U is convicted on his charges, he's not facing light time. He's facing life in prison. Now, last time I reported on this story, we had little info about the man he's accused of murdering beyond that he was an aspiring rap artist signed to his label. Now we've learned the victim we previously knew as RW actually used to play football with Big U's son.
I just want y'all to know, all this stuff is quagmire. Shit is all bullcrap.
Not guilty. That's the plea Big U entered last week when he was arraigned on his charges. But Big U is looking at a major uphill battle, and the battle of a federal trial could soon begin as early as next month. According to his federal indictment, Big U ran a criminal enterprise that they call the Big U Enterprise. Court documents say the Big U Enterprise is a mafia-like organization that utilizes Henley's stature and long-standing association with the Rolling 60s and other street gangs to intimidate businesses and individuals in Los Angeles. Federal prosecutors claim Big U is known and regarded as a leader within the Rolling 60s Crips, and his time with the gang dates all the way back to the 80s, where he rose up the ranks after earning his rep as an enforcer. So what do the feds have on him? According to the indictment, agents have confidential human sources, wiretaps, search warrants for social media, iCloud, Google accounts, financial records from individuals and companies or organizations, toll records showing communications between conspirators, victims, and Big U Enterprise members and associates, cell phone records, records from the city of Los Angeles, interviews from witnesses and victims. Now, essentially, they claim to have a lot on him, especially since the investigation launched in 2021. But here's what else we've learned since the last reporting of this story. So in addition to embezzlement, wire fraud, and all that, Big U was accused of murdering one of his rap artists in a Vegas desert in January of 2021. Now, previously, we only knew the victim as RW because that's what the indictment says. But now we know the victim's name, Rayshawn Williams. Now, prior to him being a rapper, he was a football player for Crenshaw High. The team even posting a remembrance to him on their Instagram page, writing in part, quote, "He was a very special guy to all of us here at Crenshaw. We hope that you pray and continue to pray for the family and hope that everything goes well along with them." But it's how Rayshawn died that's horrifying. Now, according to the indictment, Big U allegedly murdered Rayshawn by shooting him multiple times, then dragging his body into the desert and left him there in a ditch not far from Interstate 15. A witness told investigators Big U was one of the last people seen with Rayshawn before his murder. But why would he kill his own artist? Well, allegedly, Rayshawn recorded a diss track about Big U, even seemingly foreshadowing his own death. Now, the indictment says, quote, RW was dissing Henley, referring to Henley as the bro that makes some money, and that RW may get shot in the face for thinking his lackadaisical use of the studio and general representation of unique music is funny. Now, just 5 days later, after laying that track down, Rayshawn was shot in the face with a revolver that left no shell casings. But it's unclear if Big U heard the lyrics prior to the murder. But according to the internet gossip and rumors that are swirling around, others have suggested other reasons for why Rayshawn was murdered, like Whack 100 alleging Rayshawn and Big U's son were in a relationship and Big U didn't like that. Now, nowhere in the indictment does it.
That's crazy, because they got to mention holding on honey, but it's crazy what they saying, because I can recall holding on honey being on a podcast denying those allegations toward Big U's son, defending him. And I felt that was pretty noble of him, considering he has a son of the community, a rainbow son. It seemed like he would have been eager, anxious to throw that on Big U's son too. But no, he actually exercised a bit of honor and kept it, and I guess in his opinion, honest about the sexuality of Big U's son, and said that's a no-go. But here it is in this report, they putting it on holding on honey like he threw that jacket on Big U's son. Maybe I missed that because I thought he was saying that wasn't true.
Claim that happened. But Whack 100 and Big U hate each other, so who knows? It might be Whack trying to get another jab in. But in addition to murder, federal prosecutors allege Big U's enterprise purported control of LA, to the point Big U allegedly required musicians, athletes, and others who wanted to do business in LA, both legitimate and even of the criminal kind, to check in. Now, if you're unfamiliar with checking in, it's pretty much you had to get permission from Big U to travel to LA if you wanted protection. Ironic enough, his podcast is called Checkin' In. He even made note of how to do it in the theme song. When you hop off a plane, check in. Penthouse suite, check in.
And I ain't gonna lie, that's some of the stuff that looked worse outside of the phone taps. The fact that his whole franchise or brand was built around checking in, and we know that was just him marketing. But the fact that they making all these allegations and trying to put this together, the fact that he had a soundtrack for the activity with Snoop Dogg singing it is just not going to weigh well. You know, Snoop Dogg has transcended. Like, it's not like if I was singing it or somebody in the federal government had to be introduced to or in the jury pool. Everybody knows that Snoop Dogg voice, and they know he has this Crip affiliation, and it just puts in the mind of the public and anybody that could potentially have any chance to weigh in on this case. It magnifies it. is greater, is bigger, is larger. This dude was tapped in with Snoop Dogg. Everybody knows Snoop Dogg. Now, that looked bad with him and other things that he's been caught on camera saying. They gonna bring it up in here too, like the movie production being out there and talking about checking in. Yeah, that I gotta admit, that looked bad. Facts on my mama.
When your feet hit the street, check in. Because if not, gets hot. You better check in. And checking in isn't just sending a text message to Big U saying, hey, I'm in Los Angeles. You gotta pay him. And he's gotta sign off on it if you want to conduct certain activities. Now, Big U has pretty much been a guest on every hip-hop and rap podcast you can imagine, and the feds were watching. Now, they cited in the Hip Hop Uncovered documentary that Big U stated, if you don't pick up the phone, that can mean death for somebody. In the Nothing to Something podcast, he said, you gonna check in. You could choose not to, and it's gonna be a problem. If you choose not to check in, you suffer the consequences. Now, an example they used of the so-called consequences was the attempted murder for hire plot of rapper Quando Rondo, which was allegedly set in motion by rapper Lil Durk. Now, during that shooting, Quando Rondo wasn't killed, but his cousin was gunned down. Then there's the whole defrauding companies, donors, athletes, and celebrities part. Big U is accused of pocketing more than $100,000 in donations to Developing Options, his nonprofit charity. He even received donations from the likes of Draymond Green and Shaq. Now, according to the LA Times, in August...
This is what I'm fully aware of. When it comes to nonprofit organizations, when you are at the top or at the head of one, and you are orchestrating the affairs, you are allowed 30 to 40% for operating costs. Now, operating costs means, okay, we took all these funds in order to help the community. So just say somebody gave us $100. Now, we can reserve $30 and $40, $30 to $40 of that $100 in order to get the actual items or goods out to the public. Whether that means, hey, I need gas in my car, or I need to pay an individual to transport some of these items. 30, 40% is reserved for the operation of everything, including if I'm putting my time, effort in, therefore I can't put it in elsewhere to actually earn an income. I can also utilize 30 to 40% of that to also compensate me or anyone else that I really rely on to make this operation work for our time. So I think this is an area where perhaps just not going protocol step by step by documenting each move that you made with the funds is looking very bad for Big U. But him being able to afford himself a lifestyle off of the nonprofit is not illegal or beyond norm. 30, 40% is allocated for operating costs. The problem is when you usually exceed that 30, 40%. So I think that's just going to be a technicality that his lawyers are going to have to really straighten out and show and structure that, yeah, he may not have moved the funds in a typical business nonprofit fashion and kept everything documented, but that's more of a lack of business acumen and less of a nefarious intention. He wasn't trying to be slick. He was just not as, let's say, financially sound with the funds as someone who may have graduated from a financial institution and does that for a living, like a bookkeeper or what have you.
August of 2019, NBA star Draymond Green donated $20,000 to the nonprofit. Shaq donated the same amount, but the money went into Big U's personal account. So that's a lot, right? And that's just the Cliff Notes pretty much.
However, if he can show that he went to his personal account and took out a chunk and still did something for the community or for a program, that might not be as damning as it sounds off the top.
Much. Now, I just want to point out here, obviously the feds are accusing Big U of violating RICO, so they allege he didn't do it alone. There were several others also picked up, and by picked up, I mean arrested as a part of the alleged criminal enterprise. Now, as for Big U, he claims that he's innocent. On the way to turn himself in, this is what he had to say.
I'm looking at this video as I come in to turn myself in, and I'm disheartened by the fact that they trying to say that I stole something from Developing Option, or I used Developing Option as a front. Developing Option paid my bills. They paid my house note. They paid the bills for my family, the money I made from as an employee for developing option.
How he stumbled over that statement right there is why I clarified my understanding of nonprofits and the operating costs. Because when he just said, "Oh, it paid my bills," it comes across kind of like, And I had to tell the homie prior to this, before he went to jail, I'm like, "Cuz you're not a public speaker," and I used to get kind of irritated by seeing him on certain platforms answering certain questions to the best of his ability, knowing myself that he's not a public speaker, knowing exactly what he's trying to express, and realizing it's not quite getting across to the audience, and there's a bad taste being left in the listener's mouth. And that's one of the last things I expressed to him in communication, like going on there talking to certain people because they don't give a f about you. It's not a public speaker, trying to tell him, like, be more selective in where he chooses to sit down. Because a lot of times, when you rise to prominence for other reasons other than public speaking, and it becomes time to be a public speaker, you're not really on your toes about being very specific on what words you utilize. You have a thought and a feeling on the inside, and you're trying to be fast and express it. And sometimes you don't realize some of the words you utilize, some of the words you don't use, some of your expressions come across less than the way you would appreciate it to your listener. Facts.
I never mixed that with nothing. I didn't manipulate nobody. I didn't steal nothing. We did PPP loans. We did 2 loans. And that's it, just like everybody else did. I didn't use no fraud. I didn't give none of fake names. And one of them we was paying back and one they forgave. You know what I mean? And the other one we attempted for and they didn't give us nothing for it. I filed my taxes and them coming around telling me I was using developing option as a cover. Cover for what? None of that's going to be true. None of that's going to be true.
I know he was in shock. He was hot, piping hot. But I would have preferred him had not done this video whatsoever. I think it would have been better off had he not done this. But I know it was hard, extremely difficult to refrain from doing so. However, I also believe he had not actually seen the complaint by the time he did this. Because even if he chose to still do it, I think he would have still worded it slightly different and maybe said a little less on my mama.
The government putting this big picture, they want to arrest 21 dudes. Some dudes I don't even talk to. I don't even know nothing about. So how the hell you going to lump me in with all them? But it's all the big picture, though. It's all the big picture. Now I'm going to be sitting in here. It's going to be years out of my life. Then you going to get dudes who I don't even talk to. What they going to say? You ruining people's lives. I heard it's up with 21 people that's been arrested. This shit wrong. It is what it is. Church, just pray for me. Just pray for me, pray for my family. And you look at what we did. You look at what I did. I've been home 21 years. It ain't over, though. That's what it's not. Blessings. I'm looking at all these charges on the news. I'm headed back to LA. And then I'm looking at the people they arrested. How you gonna go arrest?
I wonder if you believe that as soon as he said he's headed back to LA, that the feds send somebody to each freeway that connects into LA from local stretches to see that they can catch him on the highway and apprehend him, or did they just wait at the location because he said he was going to turn himself in? Just a thought. Oh, my mama. I think deputies was dispatched to try to catch him en route. Facts.
People that I don't even talk to. That's a built-in liar right there. You know what I mean? So, is that how they gonna work the case? Everybody know I don't can him. Everybody know I'm clickbaiting. So if you want to arrest certain dudes, and put them next to me, them is the dudes you gonna have to call themselves turn it against me. Well,
that's why I say I'm sure he hadn't read the complaint just yet, because I think he's unaware of some of the evidence they had, like as far as the wiretaps and things of that nature. That's why he's making these statements. So I think he probably would have left some of this out had he been aware of some of the things that were stated in the complaint. Oh, my mama.
No turn against me. I ain't going for that. You might as well go get 600 and whack. These dudes been saying I did all year. So what they doing is they go on the internet and these dudes say that I did shit on the internet. Then when you say I did on the internet, they go investigate it. Now you raiding my houses, raiding my shops, raiding all this stuff. And talking about I'm committing crimes and covering up with developing option. What crimes am I committing to cover up with developing option? You know what I'm saying? I ain't committed no crimes and covered nothing up with developing option. It's crazy. But this how they get you. They get one or two people to say something. Ain't gonna be no real evidence. Ain't gonna be no real nothing. It's gonna be a repeated thug. It's gonna be a bunch of people in jail for a bunch of different crimes that don't have nothing to do with me. They finna lump all of us up and say it's all around the 60s. Watch this. We just seen it with Thug.
Difference with Thug is he was dealing with local authorities. This federal government is a largely different monster. It's a different animal. Facts.
I'm finna experience the same thing out here. I knew it was coming. Now they on there saying all this stuff to assassinate my character. All right, man, just pray for me. And again, they can do any one of us. It ain't nobody safe with these dudes. If these dudes feel they want you, how they going around talking about somebody's gonna raid my house before my house get raided? How they there with the police? And y'all sitting there following them. Everybody that's a part of them shows, and 100 shows and all them shows, and y'all need to, everybody who following them, promoting them, anything. Y'all wrong. Y'all ain't black. And y'all show ain't for our people. They can put charges against anybody. So this is gonna probably be my last video. I'm gonna go turn myself in to see what's going on. They talking about I'm a fugitive. So they just raided all my houses. 600 was actually with the police when they raided my house. And he's actually got video and footage of it. So y'all know what y'all dealing with. And I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about whack. Whack, loose cannon, 600, and this internet stuff. All of y'all filed. All y'all who be sending shit around the internet, all y'all who be promoting and listening to what these niggas saying, all y'all giving these likes and hidden likes, all y'all supporting this. All y'all guilty of this. If you had something against a black man, you should handle it with a black man in the streets. Wack said 100 times he was gonna take my contracts. He working with the FBI. The FBI went to the city 3 days in a row and told the city they didn't want nobody to give me no more money.
That's why I said I wish he would have not said this when you get arrested or when your Miranda rights are read to you. You are told anything you say can and will. I always catch that part. Nobody ever highlights that part. They don't just say can, which should suffice. Anything you say can be used against you in a court of law. That should be enough. But they say can and will. And lo and behold, by the time they drafted some paperwork after this day, they detailed and mentioned these videos in the complaint. That's why I said I wish he had not done it. Because regardless of what he was trying to say, they are going to attempt to use this against him in the court of law. Facts. Oh, my mama.
They went to all the different celebrities and told all the different celebrities, don't give me no money, don't help me, don't do nothing for me. They going around scaring and intimidating everybody. But y'all sitting it around getting people in trouble. Like y'all don't understand what the FBI do to black men who try to help their community. I ain't been nothing but a help to our community. But I guess it is what it is. This the price of being black and trying to help somebody, trying to help your community and do what you can. You just guilty because somebody else don't like you and they go on the internet and do what they want to and y'all gonna promote it. It's crazy. But I'm going to go turn myself in though. Because I ain't did nothing. This fact is, man, they done went to my house, kicked my houses in, bust my doors down, bust my windows. They calling my son at his football practice, threatening him. You know what I mean?
I ain't gonna lie. Type of nigga I know Big U to be, and we all familiar with how long he's been affiliated with dealing with legal situations. It's no secret. Been to prison, I believe, multiple times. A lot of it has been publicized when he tried to renob the eating under key numbers, right? And I just know myself, and I know many other people who have that type of history. And I believe the feds knew exactly what they were doing by contacting and threatening his son, because I believe had they not done so and had Big U not had that issue to ponder, I don't believe he would have been so willing to surrender. And I think that may have been one of his last gestures of unselfishness, perhaps somewhat forced, because that's his baby boy. But I believe had they not had that to hold over his head, he would not have been so simple to apprehend. I just saw some gangster on some hush, on some real man, on some man, catch me if you can. I don't see myself giving up my freedom. And it just doesn't make sense for it to work that way unless you got me by the balls. And Big U tells a story in the past of when he utilized a mobile home with one of his constituents, and they were apprehended by, I believe, the feds based on some alleged activity the constituent had been involved in over a decade ago. And that man did the honorable thing, came forward to free the innocent, so no one else would have to suffer for things that he was charged with. And I believe he subsequently got a life sentence. That just came to my mind right now. I find that ironic that they were threatening Big U's son, and it seems like it probably helped motivate him to come forward and make a gesture that was similarly made on his behalf in the past. Facts on my mama.
These dudes tagging him. What kind of shit is this? But y'all gonna be rolling with these dudes. And I got this last thing to say. Wax said he was gonna destroy developing option, right? So who gonna replace developing option? Which one of you 60s gonna call yourself coming in? Because whoever try to come in, y'all the ones that's working with Wax. Believe that. So remove me to get me out the way for somebody else to come in who gonna cooperate. That's what the play is. That's what the whole play is. I'm out. I'm gonna send y'all videos to put up, all of them until they lock me up.
And we'll see how this plays out, as new reports suggest he could face trial as early as next month. Let's bring on trial attorney Adante Pointer to get his take on what Big U's trial could look like. Adante, thank you so much for joining me today. Now, before we get into the trial aspect of everything, what's actually your reaction to Big U's 107-page indictment?
On my mama. Everything I've heard associated with this case, it seems so dismal, dark for Big U, cuz. So as I was listening to this, I expected more of the same, especially off the title. It says shocking details uncovered in the Big U RICO case. It's something of that nature. So I kind of just expected more condemnation, but as this dude started fielding questions, as only a lawyer could do, I saw him expose some light, some potential possible light at the end of the tunnel for Big U. So I think that if Big U has the opportunity to even consume content, somebody that's in touch with the homie need to get him to see this, because this is probably the only content that comes from people who really know what they talking about that I've seen that make it seem like he got a shot and it's not already over. Facts.
And that there's so many allegations like violation of RICO Act, allegations of embezzling, allegations of murder, and that federal authorities actually date back some of these alleged crimes as early as 2021.
Yes, this is a very much a sprawling indictment that has ensnared not only Big U, but it implicates a lot of different people because the government essentially laid out their case to say this was not a single individual, although he was the head or the mastermind, if you leave it to what the government has put together of this criminal enterprise. And in order for it to be an enterprise, that means there are other people involved. And so this is a net that has ensnared more than just Big U, but it's also implications for a lot of other people on a far-ranging list of crimes. And this is something that was pretty shocking to read. It almost read as if it was a fiction novel. But from the government's position, this is fact, not fiction.
Oh, yeah. And it does feel like it's a movie script just kind of playing out. And it's interesting, too, because the persona Big U kind of portrayed was that of a former OG that's now a community activist. He wants to do good for the community. And while we can say two things can be true at once, right? Like maybe he was doing good for the community, but if you believe what the federal authorities are alleging, especially in this indictment, he was running pretty much essentially a mafia-like enterprise. They even said that in the indictment. What's your reaction to kind of what feels like a double life he was living?
Well, you mentioned that two things can be right. And so he could have also been engaged in things that were positive, if you will, for the community in terms of helping a community that's very disadvantaged and hasn't received the same economic opportunities. Nevertheless, you have to counterbalance that with these allegations right now that show that he was involved in not just trafficking and extorting people, but also they say that he personally committed a murder. So, those are very stark contrasts and contradictions of a person. And I'm sure the community knows him one way or maybe both ways. That's what's going to be pretty riveting, is to see if this case makes it to trial and or more information that comes out as relates to where the government got their information from. We may see two contradictions of a man on full display, or we may see that this is really the monster as he's been portrayed, or as Big U has tried to portray himself, a victim of government overreach.
And what are your thoughts on Big U kind of declaring his innocence? Now, before he had turned himself in to federal authorities, initially people thought he was going to make a run for it, but he turned himself in. We know that, and he's been in custody for weeks at this point. But in terms of just what federal authorities have on him, but Big U's kind of declaring that, to your point, this is overreach. What's your reaction to that?
Well, when you're up against a federal indictment and one of the cornerstones and the bedrocks of our democracy is innocent until proven guilty, I think that he played it the way that you could, which is he's saying, hey, I didn't do all of these things that you're claiming. I'm not this monster that you're portraying me to be. And I'm looking forward essentially to defending myself against these allegations. That in and of itself doesn't necessarily mean that I didn't do anything that's being alleged or that I wasn't some part or piece of the entire mosaic or picture that they're painting. He's just simply.
It was refreshing to even hear him say that, because you heard my layman's unexpert, uneducated opinion was I would have preferred him not made these videos. But here, this is an expert attorney who knows exactly what Big U is up against, and he didn't find any fault in him making them videos. As a matter of fact, he even spoke kind of favorably in regards to the videos, and that shocked me. Oh, my mama.
He's saying, look, I didn't do all that you said I did. This isn't the way it went down, and I look forward to saying my piece, and you're targeting me. And that same allegation rings very similar to what we heard with our current president, who was the target, if you will, of federal activity in the courts and prosecutors. And he wound up his way in the White House in the Oval Office.
Yeah, that is very correct. As far as the allegations in Big U's indictment, when it comes to wire fraud allegations, embezzlement, making fraudulent applications for COVID-19 relief loans, and then you have that on top of some of the more kind of heinous allegations too, that being murder, allegations of robbery, kidnapping, all of that sort. Why do you think that they're all kind of stacked together in this massive indictment, as opposed to, for example, the murder happened back in 2021? Why do you think that wasn't taken up as a separate matter, and then possibly the financial stuff taken up in another matter? Why do you think it's all together? It's so that way federal authorities can kind of get a slam dunk and a win, or what are your thoughts on that?
typically when you see the federal authorities or any prosecutor kind of lump together an assortment of crimes that range over an extended period of time, what they're looking at is the cumulative effect of the weight. When Big U were to step into a trial and or try to negotiate a plea bargain on this case, the prosecutor has 5, 10, 15 different criminal acts and violations to choose from to kind of to put him in a rock and a hard place, so to speak. And so what you see is they pile on, is the term that the criminal defense attorneys use. We say you've piled on all these charges in order to make it that much more difficult for my client to fight for his freedom, and or if we were to go to trial, you paint such a negative picture by claiming all these different things. A jury is more likely to think, well, maybe not all of these things are true, but one of these things are true. And we might not agree on the most severe crime, but we can make a compromise verdict in terms of a jury agreeing on a charge or a conviction on something that's a little bit less serious, but yet carries devastating consequences.
That's deep. So basically, to summarize what he said, from my perspective, is the federal government dirties you up so bad in the eyes of the jury, not even ever hoping or thinking they have action at getting all of it to stick. But they said in the psyche of a jury, if you're charged with all this so much dirt, if we just strip down 80% of it because it's so much, it's unbelievable, then we feel like, okay, we're being fair to the person that's being charged, because you can't be responsible for all this. This is overkill. But however, where there's smoke, there's fire. So you may not have done all this to top the best, but you could not be in this position if you hadn't done nothing. And we do believe you did this, that, and the other. And the feds know this, that, and the other is enough to get you stuck. That's deep.
In terms of prison time.
Yeah, because he's facing life in prison, and not even just life in prison, a statutory max sentence of life in prison. What are your thoughts on whether or not this could be a possibility for him, especially given that, he had previously served time for a completely different separate matter. But in terms of just the punishment that he's facing, it is a lot of time. But what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Federal charges and convictions come with heavy penalties. That's why the weight of the federal government, when it's leaning on you as a criminal defendant, or if you're the criminal defense attorney, is punishing. Because especially for people who have prior convictions, you have the risk of being declared a career criminal, which in and of itself invokes a mandatory minimum of decades of time. And that's how the federal system works. It's a point system as it relates for how a punishment could be meted out. So when he has all these different variety of crimes, you add that to his prior convictions, and you're looking at a staggering amount of time as it relates to prison exposure. And that's why many people plead, because you're up against a very difficult decision. Do I risk what might be hundreds of years in prison, or do I take 10, 15, 20 years, which is still an amazing amount of time, but you still have an opportunity to come home and restart your life.
Definitely an amazing amount of time, but definitely typically how things pan out. And as ugly as it sounds, just think about it. They gave my homeboy 12. That was a sweet deal. It's the reality when you be out here and you jugging. And one thing, and I'm not saying he has done anything or he's involved in anything, but if by chance he is guilty of anything that they're throwing at him, Big, you've been doing this long enough to know it ain't about just getting all the way off. They offering you anything under 20, bro. As old as he is and as terrible as that might sound, the way this look, that might be a sweet deal. Oh, my mama.
Versus 300 years, which is essentially a death sentence.
Yeah, and that's why I'm kind of surprised that given this overwhelming amount of evidence, it seems like from federal prosecutors and from authorities, that I was a little surprised that Big U pleaded not guilty. Now, again, he maintains his innocence in all of this, but as in terms of him not going through with the plea, in this case, now going to trial.
What is she talking about? When did they offer him a plea? I mean, did I miss that? Somebody in the comments let me know. She just told on herself. Sometimes you can look from the outside and make people wonder if people be suspicious if you're a dummy or ignorant, or you can open your mouth and prove it. I think she went off script right there. because I don't think he was ever offered a deal. And I wonder, Law and Crime not being a melanated platform, do you believe they chose these two personalities to chop up this case because of their skin color? Just a thought, just a question.
What's your reaction? What do you think it could look like?
Well, he's going to have amount of time to review the federal government's evidence against him and try to challenge it, and then mount his own defense. At some point in time, as you mentioned, he will have to make the decision. Am I going to try to make a deal or accept an offer, or will I have to go to trial? Those are going to be heavy concerns and considerations.
Without shitting on her, the attorney just corrected her and said he will have to make that decision at some point, but he has not yet decided to pass on the deal, young lady. And I did not mean to call you stupid, but that's just the way the phrase, the saying is said. Just expose yourself as not really up on the subject matter as you would perhaps like the audience to believe. I peeped it.
For him to think through, because as we discussed, he's looking at an inordinate amount of time, and the federal government will give you that time. There's no question. So this will be a very difficult decision, and I think primarily it'll weigh upon the witnesses coming to court and cooperating. But that's actually a very common tactic of the federal government, is when you're facing a federal prosecution, oftentimes they already have the witnesses against you in the bag, so to speak, and they're cooperating, and they have sentences, and they have statements and interviews and recorded evidence. So oftentimes when you see a federal indictment, the federal government has already done the research, they've already done their homework, but that doesn't mean people do not beat these charges. That certainly can happen. So it's to be determined.
Oh, my mama, that's the first time I've heard anyone from an official capacity speaking on this subject say something to this effect. And he said it with the confidence of a lawyer. They can be, these got some of the coldest personalities in the working world is these lawyers. Look how he'll have to just think, when you in this position like Big U is in, and it looks this bad, it gets to a point where all you're looking for is a crack, or just a small speck of a light, a hope. And that's what an attorney typically is there to provide for you. And he, regardless of how it turned out, he can obviously insert some hope in the client just with the way he explains the law. That's deep.
As they say.
And as far as the murder allegation, he's accused of murdering a rapper that was signed to his label. And the feds pretty much allege that he did this because this rapper, who we now know to be Rashawn Williams, recorded a diss track about Big U. Now, it's unclear whether or not Big U actually heard these lyrics prior to the shooting. But in terms of just the murder the murder allegation. What are your thoughts on this, especially given kind of the close nature that Big U allegedly had with the victim?
Once again, to read that allegation and to hear that he murdered a rapper that worked for him, that was on his recording label, that he actually was supposed to be looking out for and kind of shepherding through the entertainment industry, shot him allegedly in the face and left him for dead on the side of a highway, all because this rapper made a diss track or disrespected him in a song. Those are very shocking allegations and, heinous if proved true. And, it's something that you'd hate to hear happen to anyone. But over something as petty as a diss track is something that's just unimaginable to think about, the depravity of a person to do such a thing. So it's definitely a jaw-dropping headline. The question is it true? And what is the evidence to back it up? And so that remains to be seen.
As a good defense attorney, he always ends with that perspective. And I have a very extremely difficult time believing Big U would ever involve himself with such an incident behind the diss song, like he just stated. However, they came with an alternative theory as to why this may have taken place. And I'm just saying in general, Big U, Big me, Big him, Big her, Big whoever. The secondary theory seems to make more sense to me personally. If anyone were to be involved in such activities, the motivation for the first theory, I don't know. But that second thing they trying to throw around about the boys, that would make more sense for anyone to be motivated to be outraged to me. But I don't believe it took place whatsoever.
Yeah, and in terms of even just that, you also have this kind of other aspect to the entire case, and that's Big U's kind of way of raining this power down on LA, and that's in the form of checking in. Something that really federal authorities kind of laid out how Big U kind of operates that in terms of just even having professional athletes, musicians, other people who wanted to come down to LA pretty much make a form of payment to make sure that they were protected essentially by Big U, so that way consequences wouldn't happen. And the feds even kind of point out what the consequences are, that being the shooting or the attempted murder of rapper Quando Rondo, and that kind of has to deal with the Lil Durk case. But in terms of just the whole checking in aspect to this case and just even the power that Big U exuded, because they got the whole check-in thing, and I could just kind of ramble on about this, but they got the whole check-in thing because Big U always talked about it on podcasts and documentaries. He was very vocal, and it seems like the feds were watching this entire time. But in terms of just the evidence that the federal authorities have as far as the podcasts, the documentaries that he had done, but in addition,
Yep, keeping it a Google. That's the one thing Big U probably kicking himself is about. Dealing with loose lips is one thing. Probably, he was a recruit serving that bit him in the ass. That's one thing. That's what someone else did. But as a man, when he got to lay down at night and talk to his own thoughts and look in the mirror and reflect on just the things that they have coming out of his mouth on them wiretaps and on some of these videos, he gonna have to be like, damn, what he got to be about what he did. Because even if he was bragging and lying about whatever was said, if none of it was true, it's a lot of damning things that have come forth from his mouth personally. Facts.
to Big U saying these kind of words out of his own mouth, how bad does that look for the defense come trial?
Well, when you are facing criminal charges and some of the key items or pieces of evidence are words you yourself have uttered out of your mouth, they're very hard to walk back. They're very hard to dodge the implications of those. And so many of these rappers and people in the entertainment industry have gotten very fond of getting on social media and on podcasts and telling stories or recording themselves in the midst of whatever they're doing, essentially admitting to what they're doing and describing what they're doing, which to me is essentially saying, hey, raising your hand and saying, hey, I'm ready to go to jail or I'm ready to go to prison. Take me in. And so, unfortunately, for Big U, they're citing a lot of these different interviews or internet posts where he's talking about checking in. I do note that, and keep in mind, I imagine a part of his defense, I would think, is going to say, look, given where people want to film these videos or they want to come and do their marketing or their advertisements and shoot these videos, these are in dangerous parts of LA. And the police are not here protecting people. The police come after a crime takes place. Many people in these communities say the police come to pick up the shells or to pick up the bodies. They're not there before the shooting takes place or the protection before, the carnage happens. And so Big U's like, hey, I'm providing a service. These rappers, these entertainers want to come to these dangerous neighborhoods and take pictures and take videos. I'm actually there making sure that bad things don't happen. I'm providing order that the police are not providing. Now, that's very much like the Godfather Don Corleone-esque. So I don't know how it'll actually play in a courtroom, but I think many people in the community and in the industry understood it. Unless he was actively going after people saying, hey, if you didn't check in, now I have to come and rob you. And that is a part of the allegations in the federal indictment, is that it wasn't just he was providing protection in places and in ways that the police were unable to. It was that the allegation is that if he understood that a celebrity was coming to LA and they did not check in, did not pay the tax, if you will, for his protection, then he would actively send people after them in order to rob them, in order to further cement his reputation as the boss, if you will, in these neighborhoods.
On my mama, cuz as I look at these slideshows of these photos they show of Big U, he is cursed with such a menacing appearance. Even on the pictures with the vest and the collar shirt and the smiles and the grin with the suits. Cuz just look like a gangster. Oh my mama. Oh boy.
And it's interesting too because, given street code, right? Not that I'm too familiar with it, but from my understanding of it, it just seems like there is just kind of this code of honor in a way. That is just kind of the way that the streets run. And even in terms,
It seemed like just thinking about the street code got her gushing, squishy, squishy, squishy. She sit up here and try to diddy, 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 diddy. Then she go to the bar, have a drink, and she texts a nigga who know all about that street code, not from the perspective of the law, but from participation. And he come over there and beat us. Oh, I got distracted. My bad, y'all. My bad.
of Big U talking about checking in, he says, even when he leaves LA, he makes it a point to check in if he's going to Chicago, if he's going to Atlanta. So it seems like there's kind of this, if you do this for me, I do this for you type of code of honor in a way for this in the streets. But in terms of just leaving the street life, because they sometimes when you're caught too in deep, it seems like there's no way of getting out, and then this type of thing happens. But in terms of just, the OG's not leaving the street life. We're in 2025 now. A lot of things have changed in terms of, people are more vocal on.
She thought she did something when she just threw that OG in there so smooth and eloquently like it's her everyday. Go to get it, sister. We rocking with you. I'll see you putting it together. Oh, my.
Podcasts are more vocal on social media just about things that they may not realize could be coming off very criminal, but they're still talking about it, not realizing that other people are watching. But in terms of just the street life bleeding into criminal activity that just keeps going and going and going, what are your thoughts about that overall?
Another thought I had watching Big U in that car making them statements, don't know how true it is, but with the allegations of the infidelity, I kind of picked up a sense that he was even distracted on the message he was trying to get out there, because it seemed like he was maybe in the car with his wife and those allegations were also fresh in the air. And I just detected there may be tension between he and she on that. And therefore, he was even to a larger degree uncomfortable and irritated and couldn't even express himself as well as he probably would have had that not been an energy, a dynamic between the two of them. And that's just me analyzing what I see. I have no evidence toward that other than me watching the videos, knowing that that's part of the paperwork. Facts.
Yeah, he certainly has a past that's been discussed, had some convictions, known to be a power player or the boss within his circle and within his circle of influence there in Los Angeles. And yes, people do check in when they go into different parts of our country. Now, is it a check in to say, hey, I'm here, look out for me, tell me the best restaurants, tell me the best places to hang out, tell me the places to avoid? That's a certain type of check in. And those are the type of things that many of us might do if we're going to a place that we're not familiar with, and we have people who are familiar with that place in our circle. The problem that people run into is when you provide those type of recommendations or services, A, for money, and B, under pain of being robbed or beaten or killed. Okay, that's called extortion. That's different than merely checking a Yelp review. All right. And so that's what the federal government is talking about here. I do, once again, understand and appreciate the idea that these people often are high net worth individuals. They live a flashy lifestyle. They're going into areas where, violence and crime definitely takes place. The police don't appear to be able to maintain that order. And there's something to be said about communities being organized in a way to where someone outside of the system who may not be able to, the system in areas that the system may not be able to reach, is able to maintain some sense of order.
Yeah, Big U legal team need to get a hold of this piece, catch everything this dude said, and incorporate it into their defense, because he's making sense. He's the only person I've seen in this capacity make sense in any degree in an audible defense that can somewhat benefit Big U. Facts. His legal team needs to draw off the same thought process that this man is speaking from and build upon it.
And decorum about how things are going to take place in these communities. And so that may be the role Big U played. And if that's the case, then we also understand from just watching politics and just our everyday things is that when the person who is maintaining that order is removed, there is a power struggle at times, and there's a power vacuum, and then people are competing to fill that void. And oftentimes that leads to even more violence than the authorities think that they were trying to stem or quell. Instead, it incites violence and aggressive activity. And so that also remains to be seen.
There have been some reports that have been suggesting that the trial could start as early as next month, which to me sounds just completely insane. But do you think that's actually plausible given just how extensive this case really is? Do you see it even going on trial next month or getting pushed back, especially now that he's in custody?
I was a bit surprised to say this case is scheduled for trial in such a short window of time. However, I also understand that as a defense attorney and as a defense strategy, sometimes you want to push the government.
I just noticed that he was instructed to answer his questions in the form of a statement. I only caught it because I was recently working on a production and I was asked to do so. So the way he started the question in relation to the way it was asked, I believe they asked him, when I ask you the question, please start it off as a statement, like you're just making a statement about this subject. That's what it comes across as.
For the prosecutor to trial quickly because you do not believe that they have all their ducks in a row and will be able to essentially be organized, be prepared, and ready to bring all the witnesses and the evidence to bear at trial against you. And so that's also sometimes a tactic. At the same time, generally speaking, time is in the defendant's favor if they allow time to kind of run out and allow time to extend out because witnesses' memories fade. Bad things happens to people. People, are not easily found, and a case can fall apart over time. And so, as usually, that's to the defendant's benefit to allow the time to kind of run out and not ask or push for a quick trial. But just because the trial is scheduled for within a month's time or so does not mean it will go at that time. Oftentimes trials are delayed. They're continued to later dates for reasons on both sides of the aisle. Sometimes the prosecutor needs more time. Other times the defense needs more time, or even the court. So I wouldn't bet on trial proceeding in a month or so. However, it could happen at some later point in time if neither the defendant and the prosecutors can agree on some type of deal.
And how much of a hurdle do you think the defense is looking at, even though the prosecution has the burden of proof, but in terms of just what they have versus the defense, do you think they're really looking at an uphill battle here?
Well, assessing how difficult of a row it is for the prosecution to hoe is only going to be able to really be assessed once.
Yeah, I'm over convinced because right there it's like he forgot initially that he's supposed to answer in a statement, and then he caught himself, and before he did not answer in the form of statement, he brought it around and made that a statement. But had he remembered initially, he would have started slightly different. Because I did the same thing multiple times. You forget. But he recovered. I caught that, brother. Swift on your toes, black man. Salute.
You see the evidence behind the allegations, and whether or not people who provided evidence to the federal government are actually going to come to court and say the same things. People oftentimes, and we've seen this in Young Thug's case down in Atlanta, where who the prosecutors thought were a star witness, that person came to court and made a mockery of the entire process to where Young Thug, who was facing hundreds of years of time, at minimum decades of time in prison, he's at home on his couch on probation. So, these are different. The outcomes are not certain, nor is conviction fixed. Things can happen, and, we have to wait with bated breath to see how this all plays out.
Right, because I remember very clearly when everything, and I'm pretty sure I know which witness you're talking about, where it just kind of felt like we were in the longest trial ever. It just all went from downhill. So you really never know when it comes to trials what the outcome could actually be. Adante Pointer, I want to thank you so much for your insight into this case. I really appreciate your time. If you had a crystal ball, what do you think Big U is looking at in terms of a conviction? Do you see a jury saying not guilty? Do you see a jury saying guilty on all counts? If you had possibly a crystal ball, what do you think we're looking at?
Well, I don't see a guilty on all counts. Oftentimes these charges, they vary in terms of their strength. What I can see though is given how the federal government works and the system and the weight and the awe, if you will, of when you read that, when you read the criminal complaint or the indictment and it says the United States government versus one individual, it really does mean that. So convictions are done at a very high rate in federal criminal cases. So I could see a conviction. The question that I can't kind of make out, and the answer that I can't make out of my crystal ball is which conviction he'll go down on.
And I guess it'll be a wait-and-see game to see how this all continues to unfold. Again, Adante Pointer, I want to thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate your insight into this case.
Thank you for having me. Love being here. Take care.
Online record show Big U is still in federal custody at MDC Los Angeles. Reporting for Law and Crime, I'm Elizabeth Milner.
Yeah, you know, they was talking about Woody. West Coast stated Woody. I guess he liked to be called Woody. We don't give a what he liked to be called, though, to be honest. And I just want to reiterate, if I was disrespectful toward that melanated queen, I want to apologize for being immature and ignorant at that moment. That was unnecessary to get facetious to make my point. Point still stands, but I didn't have to use that terminology to describe it. So I want to apologize to her and anyone that was offended or embarrassed by what I said. Yeah, that attorney there helped me see that there is a fighting chance as far as not being drowned by all these charges for Big U. I very highly doubt that he will be able to escape them all, but it does seem like a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel for a man who seemed like it was up against it. And if you wonder why I'm so careful with my approach to this, yeah, Big U has been out of prison for how long? 21 years. That's exactly how long I've known him, meaning I was with him the day he paroled. I believe it's the same son that's in the NFL right now. Had a birthday party at a Chuck E. Cheese on Prairie and Redondo. He's a little boy. And shout out to Key Rock, Neighborhood, and Corrupt Neighborhood. Because of these two individuals coming to pick me up in A-Tray Gangsterhood. That's crazy. I was there with Big U the night he came home, and my relationship with him started from there. Not to justify anything that any man in the world is guilty of, just to let you know why I use so much tact when discussing the subjects. And on top of that, Big U has his voice only on one produced record in the world. And it's a record produced by myself and my beat maker, Silent J. And it was a time when I was uploading the song for streaming, and I called Big U and asked him for his information so he can get a split to the record. And he turned it down, said, man, go ahead and eat. So that's somewhat of a gift. So while we up out of here, and we were just having fun laughing at Ho No 100 because he had got caught with his belly down, buns up in the hotel room, baby oil down on the phone, trying to talk real sensual to a man on the phone. And we were just having fun. He had called into the show, and he was just a cappella laughing, saying, don't get caught with your jaws down. Don't get caught with your jaws down. And that was the end of it. We laughed it off, and then out of nowhere, Silent J emailed me a beat with that on the hook. And that started the Jaws Down Challenge. And yeah, I got the only record Big U ever produced. So don't be like Ho No 100 or Loose Lips and get caught with your drawers down. Oh, my mama.
No, they ain't got no nut with no whack ass in it. Don't get caught with your drawers down. When I'm naked, I lay on my side, I lay on my stomach, I lay on my back.
No Hanes, Calvin Klein, Fruit of the Looms, Mushroom Moon, suited up in the room, waiting to be manipulated, mounted at mall. Madam Mika said, nigga, strip down to your drawers on the set. Must not have heard her correctly, cause cuz bit the pillow laying literally naked. Biggest mouth, bad girls clubhouse, Pyru, belly down, booty up, buns out, lucky. She went with the creep and that duct tape. Freaky ass fetish film, one man funk tape. Wiretap nigga, known to tip the laws off. Nasty on the camera with your motherfucking jaws off.
You be screaming till you pass out. Who knew you did it with your ass out? Talking till you blue in the face. I'm just trying to take dude to the bank, 2 to the face, 2, 2, 3 is a K, and K can't make you a real nigga. I pray for any nigga that deal with you. I shoot the Tommy off the hill, figure wow. It's try to put you on the menu. I got a pack of draws I can lend you. Big business what I'm into. I got a pack of draws I can lend you.
Don't get caught with your drawers down.
statements, don't get bored up. We them niggas that's wicked, no need to warn us on one. Out lurking, looking for a Vic. Nigga thinking with his dick, that's an easy lick. Kicking the doors, notorious, is well known. Talk tough, but only gangsta on a cell phone. Just know the G's gon' get it in on the mission. Before it's done, they ain't leaving a witness. Back out, running the crib like a trap house. Straps out, can't do shit cause you assed out. Could get you lined by an internet diva. Ain't it ironic how my sister named Mika?
Got you on camera, ass up, looking back. Somebody please tell me what kind of gangster is that? Thought you was a real one, but I take that back. You a sus nigga with a team full of rats. Keep losing respect, you can't get back. I know you know some real niggas, but you ain't that. You a certified weirdo, always talking this and that. How you calling niggas out when you the same type of cat? Type of work popped up, and where the fuck you at? No smut on your name, nigga, what the fuck is that? Rock me calling hoes like, don't forget the strap. Waiting until he get his ass cheeks clapped.
Don't get caught with your drawers down. Don't get caught with your drawers down. Don't get caught with your drawers down. Don't get caught with your drawers down.
Whole new meaning when we say you niggas whack now. Weird niggas better check these whole bitches back. Why you represent your hood, getting caught with your ass out? You with the industry, I think that nigga really trapped now. And I'ma take the side that I'm supposed to. You on Clubhouse, you should be on Pro Tools. I would've signed to you, all your artists old news. Nigga think you should night, this ain't the old school. From North Cali to the South, nigga. We hate watching niggas crash out, nigga. You too old to be doing shit for clout, nigga. We ain't with the going out like a clown, nigga. You know you wrong, nigga. How the fuck you get caught without them draws, nigga? Hella old and exposed like, come on, nigga. Now that big U cosign is gone, nigga.
Black 100, face all bumpy. Egghead nigga, mama shoulda named you Humpty. I dump thee, nigga, you are nothing. We all know the story, you the draws down, homie. DOE, I do my dirt by my loan. And don't let me catch you in Kentucky. KY Jelly, probably all that you want. And I bet you the booty goon that Ray J was floating. I heard you a rat, that's why you like to fuck with him. Fruit booty nigga on Clubhouse, ass up with him. All that pot shit, and that nip shit, it makes sense why you and Cali watching Nip Dick. On Netflix, wanna be tycoon. Heard about that Whack 100, Jeffrey Dahmer Part 2. Draws down your new name, and nigga, oh the irony. Your face look like Warren Fishburne, or the butt cheek. It's real rap, all facts over feelings. It's a hit on your name, and you know I'ma kill it. SBI say to get him. You know a nigga whack, it took 15 minutes just to hop on the track.
Don't get caught with your drawers down. They telling me it's a nigga laying on the bed.
Nigga Net Hustle. Big shout out to my nigga SPI, Spotter Low. You know I'm in the black box, had to come through, tap in, show love one time. Yeah, y'all make sure y'all subscribe. Stay tuned, all that.
It's the homie cook-up boss, goddammit, Cub Low. And y'all tuning in to the Wake and Bake Show with goddammit the homeboy Spider Low.
Here with SPI, the realest nigga in LA.
Spider this bitch!
My nigga Spider Low.
Spider Loke, nigga.
Spider Low.
Spider Loke.
Spider Low.
Spider Loke.
Spider Low.
Spider Low, that's my nigga.
Spider Low. Spider Low.
Shout out to SPI, that motherfucking nigga.
Spider Low, Wake and Bake. Better keep it Google, nigga.
Loke is in LA somewhere doing what he's doing.
In the words of Spider Loke on my mama's mama.
Spider Loke's gear. This is Bay Mac.
Nate Bud, C-Mac. Shout out my Loke, Spider Loke, huh? Nate Bud, on hood. It's a beautiful world. You fight me? Fight, crib.
Point blank, do no subliminal dissing. When I listen, I can tell you never been on no mission. Sticking to the script, don't care if I offend you. Neighborhood crib, the marathon
I overlook my competition, never seeing them. I done trained my mind that I'm going. You could tell by how I walk, talk, I'm a boss. A east side millionaire, homie, what you thought? My life is a movie. They can't get close to me. They mad cause they can't be. I'm everything that they wanna be, yeah.
You are now in the black box. Whoa. With Spider Loke, Most Eastie, aka VJ Keyway, and the Google Gang.
Let's go!